Alright, welcome to our 15th episode of TACTALK. I'm your host, Alden Morris. You're not going to believe this, but we've been having insane technical difficulties all this whole time, even just now, right before this recording. Did a whole segment, and it didn't register. For some reason, the segment was not saved. So here we are, our 15th episode of TACTALK, take 2. So, oh my gosh, it's been crazy. And that's just right. How I'm coming into the show is how the last week and a half has been. It's been an insane up and down roller coaster. If you follow me on Facebook or friends with my, if you see anything I do on a daily schedule, you have an idea of what's going on. So leaving it there, I want to dive into this because what has happened in the last week and a half is this the Washington elections here, and a lot of these bills that passed. I'm not going to go off who got into what seat. I could care less at the moment, because what I want to talk about is the state measures that went into, like Initiative 1631, Initiative 1634, Initiative 1639, Initiative 940, and Advisory 19. We're going to be in the first segment here. We're going to talk about the carbon tax. We're going to talk about the grocery taxes. And we'll even try to get to law enforcement, the use of deadly force bill that came into play in the first segment here. In the second segment, I'm going to save Initiative 1639, the gun control, because a lot of you guys really were pissed off about what we saw in our state. And don't get me wrong, so was I. But I've been on this bill since not the very beginning, but since the last couple of months. From the dismissal of Judge Dixon to how our state courts put it back on ballot. So I do want to talk about how I have no genuine concerns over this bill, because, again, you have to remind yourself that there is no majority mob rule in this country. We're not a democracy. We're a republic. So when something like this bill passes, and a lot of the reasoning why it was shot down in the first place by Judge Dixon is not because it's just simply well written. It's unconstitutional. I mean, to waive certain rights, to have a certain privilege, to give up your liberty in trade for security. Like, come on. So let's think about that, and let's not get too scared and, I'm moving out of state, and I'm going to overreact, and I'm going to cause a scene. Let's understand that if some of these bills go into law, quote-unquote law, quote-unquote law, then that makes traitors out of some people in government. And that's an act of treason. And then we have a duty to uphold our Constitution. So, we'll see how that goes. Moving into this first one, the grocery taxes here in Washington State. Initiative 1634. This would make it harder for local governments to tax distributors for retail food and drink items as a response to the soda tax. Yes, 55%. No, 45%. The grocery tax, basically the bill allowed it so cities, towns, and counties cannot put a additional tax on groceries that the state doesn't already have in place. And it's already, and here's the funny thing about this bill and I didn't get a chance to do the research on what the actual legality was behind it, but I know in our state we have a state constitution that states that no county, no city, no town can raise a law that's higher than the state's law itself. And they said that there was a loophole in the state constitution that allowed towns and counties and cities to tax groceries without the state's recognition or permission, basically. And what a lot of these, like Seattle, for example, they've had the sin tax, so you pay an extra tax on soda and cigarettes and alcohol. And naturally, I disagree with that, because it's an American pursuit of happiness here. It's your freedom of choice to put whatever you want in your body, not be separated from a majority because if you're doing so. I mean, you can't control. Taxing is a way to control society and to punish society as well. And that's what the sin tax is. It's like, how can we control society to move in a direction that we see fit? And how can we tell society that if you don't want to move in this direction that we see fit, you will be punished in some way? We won't take away your freedom away, because that would be quote unquote un-American. But we will tax you for that freedom to make you eventually move in the way that we see fit. So it's and that's what the syntax is. It just sucks. So I was really for this bill not passing. I know it hurts some pockets of some farmers and things like that. There's other ultimatums and levels that go much deeper into this. But the long story short, it's just another written piece of documentation in our state constitution and our state government now that has to remind cities like Seattle that you can't tax groceries where it's going to hurt the middle class the most again. Like, it's already in the state constitution. You went and got all dorky about it, and you had to go find some loophole that says, well, this doesn't fall under this category or whatever. And now it's just ridiculous. So, what's that? 5 minutes in. Moving on. Carbon tax. As much as my state loves to tax everything, I was actually surprised that this did not pass. Carbon tax. The so-called carbon tax would charge pollution fees and large emitters of pollution. This would be the first environmental push of its kind in the United States. Yes, 43, no, 56. Jay Inslee campaigned in front of crowds with children saying, do it for the children, do it for the children. They need to breathe in our future. Tax the carbon, tax the carbon. Our state literally pollutes 1/1000th of a fraction of a single % of the world's carbon emissions. I mean, there's been scientific studies done on our like climate. I mean, as if Jay Inslee gave the scientists that are opposed the carbon and our pollutants, our own personal, how much we pollute in carbon, because that's what they show you in these scary videos. Humans pollute so much carbon, blah blah, and then it shows like all these refineries and blah 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 blah. Like, it just shows all the worst of the worst, the worst. It doesn't show you the last recorded history for the last 1,000 years on climate change, on the many ice ages we've gone through, and how we weren't even driving vehicles during that time. So how could we have possibly been responsible or held responsible? It's just, look into it. There's a whole science behind it. I'm glad this one didn't pass, because we pollute so little carbon that we're literally a bleep on any type of radar, yet they want to tax you billions. So, like, I swear at this point, Jay Inslee could tell you an asteroid's coming your way, and if I don't tax you, we're all gonna get hit by the asteroid, and you all would pay. You all would pay them. So it's like, I was surprised by this one. So when we get back, we'll talk about the gun control passing. I got a couple articles pulled up. We spoke about this before, so I do want to get into that one. And then I also want to talk to you guys about Initiative 940, law enforcement passing, that one, the deadly use of deadly force, and how the pipeline tax was repealed. So we'll be right back. Bees Combat Systems at beescombatsystems.com, protecting those who prepare. 801-987-0893 for custom body armor carriers and tactical gear for military, law enforcement, contractors, corporate security, responsible citizens, and border patrol. Bees Combat Systems at beescombatsystems.com. 801-987-0893. Alright, welcome to our second segment of our 15th episode of TACTALK. We're going to dive right into it here. Initiative 1639, gun control, passed. That was the initiative. If this passes, Washington State would be among the top 5 or 6 states with the toughest gun laws. It would raise the age limit for the purchase of a semi-automatic rifle to 21 from the years of 18. This would bring it in line with the age limit for handguns, which is 21. High-profile mass shootings prompted this initiative, including several north of Seattle. So that passed with 60%. Voted against it was 39%. I don't want to get into the numbers because I have my doubts that to rig system, whatever. But the point is about this segment is my concerns regarding the I-1639, and those are minimum. I mean, if you remember back in about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, we did a TACTALK episode with Judge Dixon when he barred I-1639 from the ballot. And he barred it because not only did it not comply with state law requiring signature sheets and things like that, but also the lack of the wording, the specifics of the bill, the underlying information that the bill wasn't entirely being truthful about, and then just on the other fact that it was simply unconstitutional. I mean, if you've read the bill and the initiatives and what some of the compliances in the bill regard, such as waiving your medical privacy rights, you have to remember that in this country, we're not a democracy. There's nothing there. I mean, we have a democratic process of electoral system, but we are not a democracy. We are a republic. So, it's not about majority mob rule in this country. I mean, it doesn't mean that if you want to have this special privilege, you have to waive this right. If you want to trade for your liberty for a little bit of security, come on. So that's what this bill is. It basically tells you if you want to have this hobby, if you want to be part of this group, if you want to be identified as this, firearms owner, you don't get the right to medical privacy. And medical privacy in this country falls under a constitutional right. Because your Fourth Amendment right. You have the right to protect your papers and your possessions and your belongings. You're free from search unless you have a warrant, signed and authorized by the judge or the court for valid reasoning and due cause or adequate cause, and all that good stuff. So it's to say that because you have not committed a crime, but yet you want to have access to what they deem as an assault weapon, again, which is more drama and flair when it comes to how people receive their news. Because there's no such thing as an assault weapon. I mean, a weapon's a weapon. Whether you assault someone with it and commit an act of the verb, then come on, seriously. So and I can believe this kind of behavior and I guess understanding when it comes to the lack of knowledge when it comes to firearms. And it's not any firearms owner's fault. It's nobody's fault. Some people hunt, some people don't hunt. Some people play basketball, some people don't play basketball. Some people jump off cliffs and skydive, and some people don't. So it's just it comes again to firearms. So moving on, the reasoning that I'm not too worried about this is because, like I said, back in here we have the date was 2 months ago. Judge Dixon had barred 1639 from the ballot, and the state courts had put it back on the ballot to leave it up to the people, which again the people I guess voted for it. It still is an unconstitutional law. I can't even say it's a law, it'd be a policy. And it's not, it can't pass. It legally cannot pass. I mean, we'll have intervention from the federal government if it did pass. Like, there were just other companies and other district courts are going to get so far involved in our process of elections and stuff here and who's being what when it comes to attorney general and governor especially. Because this is like, to sit there and start violating constitutional rights in a single state is ridiculous, especially a state named Washington. So, moving on from there, what I wanted to also point out is during this time, 500,000 handgun records went missing in the Washington State database here. And let's see if I can pull up the date here. It says November 7th, November 8th, 2018. It says, records that law enforcement say are vital to public safety are stuck in limbo, unavailable to the criminal justice system because of the low-tech methods used to enter them into a Washington State firearms database. As of August, more than 525,000 handgun purchases had not yet entered into a database maintained by the Washington State Department of Licensing, which is supposed to keep those records up to date for law enforcement purposes. The backlog means that pistol purchases purchased at Washington State gun stores as far back as 3 years ago have been not entered into the system. To have a good, robust, updated system is really important to law enforcement, and I think public safety as well, said Steve Strachan, Executive Director of the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs. Every time a gun is purchased or transferred in Washington State, a licensed firearms dealer conducts the required background check. For handgun transfers, the gun dealer is required to send information about the firearm and the new owner to the DOL. For a month, DOL receives up to 15,000 handgun transfer forms, which are then scanned into digital images. After that process, the records keeping hits a bottleneck. The scanning system used at the department can't automatically convert the forms to digital records, meaning state employees must manually type much of the information into the database that law enforcement and the courts can query and search for records. It's a very manual process of bouncing back and forth, said DOL employee Neil Letterman as he typed information from a scanned computer image on one screen into a database template displayed on a second screen. For a really fast individual, it could take about 2 to 3 minutes, said Letterman. Those 2 to 3 minutes per form. It's a battle that DOL employees have not been able to win as the records backlog has continued to grow, rising. So you kind of get the point here. I'm not going to read this whole article. Kind of just goes in about how his job's really hard. There you go. Let's keep putting more. Come on, guys. I-1639, seriously, let's not do that anymore. And don't worry about it now that it has gone through. Just understand it's going to be like initiative, when it came down to Initiative 594. I mean, I don't think anyone's even been prosecuted for Initiative 594 for an illegal transfer of firearms or whatever, without a background check. I mean, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but do provide a link if you know about one where I-594 was used and upheld in court. I mean, there might have been cases where some prosecutor here in Washington State said, hey, he qualifies, and it didn't go through. So, again, we'll be back for 16th episode of TACTALK here soon, hopefully this week, and we will, again, we're setting it up to where I'm going to be getting some extra hands-on help. I'm really excited for when it comes to topic details, co-hosting, things like that. We're going to be getting a daily TACTALK show going on here soon, so especially in time for the second season. So thanks for listening, guys. We will see you again here soon.